Greetings everyone, and welcome to Herzing University's Speech EN 116 speech class. My name is Susan DeVoe and I'm your instructor for this class for the next 7.5 weeks. But before I introduce myself, I want to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. Are you wondering why you need to take this class? Have you been avoiding taking it for quite some time? Are you someone who gets extremely nervous and avoids any opportunity when it comes to speaking in public? Small crowds, large crowds at all. Are you someone who, when you do speak in public, that your mind goes blank, or you might have sweaty palms, or your tongue gets tied, or your mouth gets dry? That's called speech anxiety, and it's actually quite normal. And it's even normal for people who have been speaking in public for quite some time. So you're not out of the norm with that. No worries. You're in the right place. This class is going to help you with that. Before we get into that, though, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've had over 21 years of human resources experience. I'm not going to get into all my credentials because I know you've probably already looked at it, or you can look at it in the faculty bio. It tells you about my education. But in that experience as a human resources manager, I've had thousands of opportunity to both listen to speeches and to give speeches. When I listened to speeches over all those years, I learned the good and the bad, and so I hopefully took a lot of good techniques and strategies that I saw excellent speakers use when they were speaking in front of a crowd, giving presentations or briefings. And I had to give many of those to present different personnel program changes or policy implementations, or you name it, just run the gamut. I will admit I was a little nervous at first when I did that as a young human resources manager, but the more opportunities I found that I had to be able to give speeches and presentations, the easier it became, because I learned. I found that if I knew my material, that I was more of a subject matter expert than the audience in the class. And the more opportunities that I had to give speeches and presentations, the better I got. My biggest part about being anxious was just answering the questions after I gave my speech, not the speech itself. I actually enjoyed that because I always did my homework. I had good supporting material, I knew my information, and I just delivered it. I delivered it well. I tried to interact with the audience and giving good eye contact and all that. But we'll go through that in the course, and you'll get a chance to analyze some speeches yourself. But right now, I just wanted to briefly touch on that, my experience in the human resources field and all the different opportunities I've had. So that kind of lets you know something about my ethos, and you'll learn about that later in the course too, which means credibility and my competence on the topic itself, and that is public speaking. And then also about my personal life. I'm married. I've been married for over 21 years, and I've got two beautiful teenage daughters. One just went off to college, yikes, at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. The other one is still my baby, and she's home, and she's a junior in high school. I'm never going to let her leave. And I also have a dog who's a Shih Tzu. Her name is Mitzi, and she's as cute as a button. She's the sweetest thing in the world. And we have two cockatiels who, how can I describe them? They're something. They're quite noisy at times. Anybody who owns birds can know what I'm talking about, but we've enjoyed having them, and their name is Kiwi and Kirby. And that's, my interests and hobbies. My interests and hobbies. Well, I love Mexican food. I can tell you I lived over 17 years, I think 18 years in San Antonio, Texas, and so that's where my home and heart really is, even though I live in Tampa, Florida right now and have been for 7 years. We moved here about that time 7 years ago from the Northern Virginia area, which is beautiful, so give a shout out to that area as well. But right now we're in Tampa, Florida. We do have some family in St. Pete. I do love beaches, I will have to say that, but my home is San Antonio, Texas, where my heart is, and that's where lots of Mexican food is. That's my favorite. I love to exercise and work out, and I try to do that at least 3 times a week. Politics is a big deal. I keep up on current events, and I'm highly charged with politics, and there's a lot, of course, going on in the world in that area. And so those are primarily my interests, and just spending time with my family. And my girls keep me busy. I have my youngest daughter, who's a junior, like I mentioned. She plays soccer. She's got a lot of her soccer games, and my oldest daughter, who just went to UCF, she just made the equestrian riding team there, so we'll be going to some of her shows and events, and so they keep me busy and loving life. And so anyway, no further ado, let's press on. Let's stay on track with what we're talking about in this course. So you want to know, let's go back to, you said this is an important class for you to improve your skills, and you're wondering why. Why is it important for me? I'll tell you why. Because it's going to help you to improve in school. And it'll help you to improve in your work, whatever type you do, and in your personal life. And the reason why it'll help you in school is because in most of your classes you're going to have to do essays and writing papers. And so the creation process for preparing a speech is very, very similar, all the way up, obviously, until the drafting, until the revising and editing. You don't do that for a speech, but you do go through the topic selection. You do identify your preview, your main points. Naturally, you have a thesis statement. We'll be doing that here as well. All this is similar to an essay. You have to go through the research process about finding credible sources, and you gotta read through them so you can find relevant information based on your main idea of your speech and or your essay, if you want to compare it to writing. All that part of the creation process is very, very similar with that. So, and having the critical skills to think about the questions that you want to ask and how you're going to structure your outline, and we're going to go through that as well here too. So how will it help you in work? You think, well, I don't even, I'm not in any type of management position where I have to give briefings and presentations. It doesn't matter. Almost any job in the world, obviously not all jobs, but almost any job in the world, you're required to interact with other people and customers, mostly clients. And the more coherent and the more clear and sometimes persuasive that you are in delivering your message, then you're going to be the go-to person. You're going to be the person that's going to put that organization or that business in its best light. And so you're going to be called upon to continue to do that more and more. So you'll have the opportunity to excel. That's what we used to call it. And the more opportunities you have to excel, then the more opportunities you have to advance and promotions, things of that nature. You're going to be a hot commodity. So I'm serious. I'm not kidding. I'm telling you, I've seen it within my own career. I've seen it with other people, that if you can learn how to write and how to speak effectively, that's your golden ticket to success. It just is. It just is. In your personal life, how does public speaking help? Again, anytime you can learn how to speak effectively and clear, being able to get the words out, to deliver your exact meaning of what it is you're trying to say, then there's less chances of people misperceptions of what it is that you're saying. And we all know how that can be in our personal lives, how you can say one thing and really meant something else, but it was maybe your tone, or maybe it was your word choices that you were using that weren't very clear, or that just sent a mixed message. So this class will help you in that way too, because again, we're working on not only just learning how for public speaking, how to speak better in public in front of an audience, but also just how some of the elements of communication itself, verbal and nonverbal elements, and so we'll get into that too. So that's why. And then you're wondering, okay, well, how is this course going to do that? How is it going to make me be a better communicator, both at school and in work and in my personal life? Well, I'll tell you how it will in this particular class. Is because all the activities that we do, this class is built in all the different activities in a succession will work towards that goal, that common goal of preparing you to deliver your speech. So all the reading material that you have in your text and the presentations that you have, that you click on and that you're going to be watching, you'll get a chance to, they'll all provide the information that you need to accomplish your assignments, to include your outlines. I want to underscore how important it is, and that's the reason why I give a lot of feedback on your outlines and why it's so important, because your outline is kind of like your roadmap, if you will. It's kind of like the foundation of a house. If you've got a good, organized, coherent outline with great supporting material, and it's structured, and the design that you use fits perfectly from start to stop, from intro down to conclusion, if you can get that well, then all you have to do is practice that. I mean, that's most of your battle is over as far as your speech is concerned. Then you just need to kind of fill in on the supporting material, and then you use your keyword outline, and we're going to do those too, to stand up in front of your audience, who you're fortunate enough, it's not going to be a classroom of 20 people who you don't know. It's going to be a 5-person audience of your choosing. So it can be your family members, it can be your neighbors, your coworkers, or what have you. So you speak in front of those people all the time. So this should be a piece of cake for you. No need to be nervous. So yeah, I'm going to review it, that's true, but I'm going to review it after you've already done it, and you submit your link to me for me to review. So the activities that we'll do in this class, the reading materials, you'll get a chance to also um, analyze speeches. We have 4 speeches that you get to, both persuasive and informative speeches, and you need to be able to identify which one is persuasive and which is informative. Sometimes it may be a little bit of both. In your responses that you give and the participation and your answers to your discussion questions, you need to incorporate some of that reading material to show me that you've been reading, that you comprehend, you understand the material, and you can put it into practice through application as you're analyzing those speeches. And so we'll go over that too, on how you do that. So those are the ways that this course is going to help you we're going to work through the creation process step by step by step, sequentially, all the way up to where it comes time to week 5 where you deliver your first speech. And all you got to do is just great outline, practice your speech, know your material, and just deliver your speech, and you'll be good to go. So what I'd like to do in closing, before I actually close up, there's two things, actually 3 things that I want to emphasize that are very, very important. First, let me talk about, I'll save the 2 most important things for last, but I do want to talk about participation. Participation, because we're not in a regular brick-and-mortar classroom in person, so we have the online to go by. So it's asynchronous, that means not at the same time, discussions that we have in the discussion forum. So the requirements are for you to answer 1 initial DQ, discussion question. And again, you need to incorporate some of the information from the reading material, from the presentations, and use APA-style in-text citation. And there's information in your weekly folders that show you how to do that. So don't get worried about that now. Just read. I tell you, I can tell the students who read their information, read the material, watch the presentations, because their discussions indicate that. Their responses to the DQs, their responses to their classmates. So your classmates, there are a few times in the discussion forum and participation to your classmates, you need to reply responses back to them that gives them feedback on their draft outlines. And it's very important that you don't just say, oh, I love your topic, and you just give general feedback. You need to actually give feedback in accordance with the assignment direction for that particular analysis of their speech, of their outline, if you will, and provide feedback that's going to help them meet the requirements of an effective outline. So you need to look at their introduction. You need to look at their organization. Are they organized? Is the information coherent? Do they provide, does it look like their main points support the overall point of their speech? Do they have good relevant supporting material? Do they use transitions? Do they use source citations in the body of their text? What about their closing? Do they summarize the main points they discussed in the body? So all of this, again, I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but when you provide feedback to your classmates, it needs to be constructive. It needs to be helpful, not just I like your topic because it's interesting or what have you, because that doesn't help them to revise their outline to make it better for their speeches. And so I'll be providing feedback too. I'm in the discussion forum. I'm in the classroom actually probably 6 days out of 7, on and off all day long, and I will be reading everybody's responses. I won't be replying to everybody's responses because there's not enough time to do that, and I won't be giving feedback on everybody's outlines either. So you do need to look at the feedback that I have provided to your classmates, because that will be helpful to you. So you have 20 points. That's a lot of points. If you multiply 20 times 7, that's 140 points that you can get from participation. So don't disregard that. You need to answer 1 initial DQ and at least 3 replies. You need to try to do more if possible, because that creates a more interesting classroom. Now the other 2 things very quickly, and I know you've already read this if you've read the syllabus, because I've asked you to read the syllabus, and please print it out. You have 2 mandatory requirements for your speeches. Well, first of all, you've got to give your oral speeches to pass the class. You have a mandatory audience of 5 adults. So if you have a friend, bring a friend. Do it at work if you can with coworkers. Maybe you can, if you go to church, you can have some church folks come over to your house, or maybe you can go there and use one of the briefing rooms. There's all kinds of ways and ideas that you can think about to try to get a 5-person audience. So even if you can't get 5 people and you only have 4 because someone bails out at the end, still give your speech. Don't not give your speech, because you'll get credit. You'll get some deductions. You can see in the syllabus there's deductions for every person less than 5, but you want to still give your speech. What you absolutely need to do, and try to start thinking about as well, is your recording device. I'm using right now a webcam, and I downloaded and I'll share that information with you, a software I can't remember the name of it right now. I think it's called My Movie or Movie Maker. That software, I just Google that, My Movie or Movie Maker, and you can load that onto your PC, and you can use that. Buy a webcam. You can get them at Walmart or Target. They're like $20. They're not very expensive, and just stick that on top of your computer, like I'm doing now, and download that Movie Maker software, and then voila, it's very easy. Then you just take that, and then you just follow the YouTube instructions that we provide in this class, and I was able to do that last night as well. So it's very frustrating to watch students do very well in this class and get to week 5 and then not do their speech because they can't find a recording device. They can't borrow one from a friend. Digital camera, an iPod works. Don't use a cell phone. Cell phones don't work. It has something to do with the timing mechanism, and it won't download to YouTube. I can't open it. So digital camera, webcam, I think an iPad works, or just even a video recorder. If you have someone, or you can borrow one from a friend or what have you. If worst comes to worst, try to go to a Herzing campus and see if anybody there can help you out that might have one. But please don't get up to week 5 and then not do your speeches. Speeches are worth 350 points, actually more than that, because you have some of the activities that you do that are related to that too. Like the critiques, you can't turn in your critique. I think those are worth 20 points, and I can't grade those unless you give your speeches too. So you're talking almost 400 points just for the speeches alone. So you definitely need to participate. You definitely need to do your speeches. And so start thinking about that now. Who is going to be your audience, and where are you going to get your recording device? Go to the discussion forum. I posted a thread there. I'm asking for you to reply to that and to get some discussion going in the classroom as to how you're going to meet those requirements. Okay, so we've covered why this class is important. I've talked about how it will help you in both school, work, and in your personal relationships as far as developing communication skills and having the confidence to do so, to effectively communicate. And I talked about some of the requirements that are necessary. Participation is very important, your audience, and your recording device. But the bottom line is, this is the bottom line, you're not alone in this class. We're all in it together. Everybody's in the same boat. So if you have experienced some speech anxiety, you're not alone. There was a poll that came out in Gallup that showed that the fear of speaking in public was like the number 2 fear. I think snakes beat it out with number 1. I think fear of death was number 4. Really? So people are that afraid to speak in public? Well, why are you afraid to speak in public? You won't be afraid if you just know your material and just know that you're more knowledgeable on that subject matter than your audience is, and they're looking at you to provide information. When you go somewhere and you know someone's going to give a public speech, and you're sitting back and the speaker comes walking into the room, and you're kind of interested, right? I mean, and so on how they start out with their introduction, do they grab their attention and then start providing information in an interesting way by giving examples, good supporting material? I mean, you're giving that speaker the benefit of the doubt that they're the subject matter expert. So just know that you're in that boat, that when you're up there speaking, that you're the subject matter expert. And so they're going to give you that benefit of the doubt. And 90% of what you're feeling, you're anxious, is really inside. They can't see most of it. So just fake it until you make it. So you'll walk away from this class, I can guarantee, because I see it every time, that's the feedback I get when you're done. You'll walk away with more confidence about yourself in public speaking and with a better appreciation of this important skill and how it can propel you forward both in school and work and in your personal life. So I'm looking forward to helping you out. Please don't hesitate to call me or ask any questions at all. And I'm there for you. Your classmates are there for you. And let's get started.